Hi, good morning, and welcome to Mena or Mania. So this workshop is about the relationship between menopause and mental health. And the reason why we decided to do this workshop is because there is little to no knowledge about the relationship between neurological disorders during menopause in women and in men. At this time, I'm the only one doing the presentation, but this presentation is made between myself and my husband, Benjamin Garcia. So I will be the one speaking on this workshop. When we do our live presentations, we do it together because we believe that the relationship between menopause and neurological disorders is present in both men and women. And I will be sharing with you what does it look like, how does it manifest, and how can we prevent it. I think that the first step is to be aware that it exists so that you can prepare yourself for it. So we're going to start with marriage, as in this is one of the institutions that it's affected the most, marriage or relationships. So marriage has many practical implications, including psychological and physical benefits for men and for women, and particularly for children and adolescents, as well as direct benefits to society itself, adolescents, as well as direct benefits to society itself. There's many studies that have proven that married couples or married men or married women live longer, are happier, have better roles at their jobs, are able to perform at a better rate. There are multiple studies, but this is not a workshop to highlight that, but we need to mention that there is benefit in marriage for couples. So we wanted to bring that. There is benefits in longevity. There is benefits in a lot of different things. And so when your marriage is affected because of a neurological disorder due to menopause, is rarely identified. It's rarely treated, and it's rarely acknowledged. And that's what we want to talk about today. So health. On average, husbands and wives are healthier, happier, and enjoy longer lives than those who are not married. And this is just some of the studies that were thrown around. Men appear to reap the most physical health benefits from marriage and suffer the greatest health consequences if they divorce. And why is that? Because it's the break in habit, the break in comfort, the break in reliability. Married mothers have lower rates of depression than single or cohabiting mothers, probably because they are more likely to receive practical and emotional support from their child's father and his family. So there are benefits to marriage, to being in a relationship, to being in practical. Wealth, the benefit of marriage and wealth. Married couples build more on average than singles or cohabiting couples. Married men earn more money than do single men with similar educations and job histories. And married women are economically better off than divorced, cohabiting, or never married women. And you see that as you see the older retired women or the older women say, who is better off? So those are some of the benefits of marriage. And then children raised by their married mothers and fathers are less likely to be poor, to experience persisting economic insecurity because they have that backbone behind them. And then, of course, they can always go back to mommy and daddy for help. Right? More likely to stay in school, have fewer behavioral and attendance problems, and earn a 4-year college degrees. They're less vulnerable to serious emotional illness, depression, and suicide. more likely to have positive attitudes towards marriage, and greater success in forming lasting marriages. Married women are at a lower risk for violence than women in cohabiting or dating relationships. Boys raised in single parenting homes are more likely to engage in criminal and delinquent behavior than raised by married biological parents. Married women are significantly less likely to be the victims of violent crimes than single or divorced women. Married men are less likely to perpetrate violent crimes than unmarried men. And those are just like some of the studies. Now, this one is the studies that we find in society. The institution of marriage, reliability, socioeconomic, effective conditions for effective parenting. Being married changes people's lifestyles and habits in ways that are personally and socially beneficial. Marriage is a seedbed for pro-social behavior. Marriage generates social capital. The social bonds created through marriage yields benefits not only for the family, but for others as well, including the large society. So, what is the best in how you find yourself in a marriage is you find yourself in a marriage when you see the best in the other person. I recently read a quote that said, "You like your friends because you love the spite, right? And then you see the best in others. So you love them despite of their flaws. And you are the best version of yourself when you are with them. That's how you know that you have found the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, because you are the best version of yourself. When someone pushes you to be a bad version of yourself, that is not a good compatibility person. But when the other person instigates you to be a better person, then you have found the one. And then, therefore, you inspire the other person to be the best version of themselves, and they inspire you to be the best version of you. So then, both of you are the best version of you. And that's what you bring to society. You have two broken pieces or two bad versions, or you had your good, bad version, then you come together and you be the best version of yourself. And then pushes you and you pushes him, or you pushes your partner to be the best version of yourself, and then you go on to the world. That's why it's important. So divorce, so there are many things that happened with divorces. Divorce can end your marriage, is costly. Divorce hurts. Divorce reduces living standards, changes personal relationships, may strain your relationship with your church, place of worship, and it hurts children. I am still looking for a list that highlights what good comes out of divorce. I have not found it yet. I know that when individuals are in a bad relationship, abusive relationship, it's good for them to get out. But still then, all of these things, all of this bad list, it's still there. One, it ends your marriage. If you found the person that complements and supports and makes the best part of you come out, you lost that. It's going to cost you money and you're going to be hurt. You are also going to lose all your relationships that you had with a couple of friends and family. And a lot of times you are really become part of your spouse's family. And when divorce happens, then you lose that connection. And then lastly, it hurts your children, but it hurts you the most. So some of the demographics that we see here is that who are the people who are getting divorced? And the average age is 45 to 50. They have a bachelor's degree or higher. So this is educated people. They are employed. 63% of them are employed. Unemployed is 36-7, because as we know, money plays a big role in marriage disagreements, right? Living below poverty line is only 12%, and living with children is about 24%. Homeowners, it's 67.1%, and renters are 32.9%. So by looking at these statistics, we can see that we have highly educated people, people that are employed, people that are homeowners, so they're having a good living standard. So the average is 45 to 50 years of age. They have a bachelor's degree and they are employed. So it's not that they don't have the knowledge or the ability or the coping skills to overcome the difficulties in their marriage. What is it then? Here we see the divorce rates in between 1990 and 2017. And we see that the blue ones are the youngest people. And I can see this. In 1990, it's the blue. In 2017 is the yellow. And then we see the ages. Okay, so 15 to 24, which is understandable. A lot of them got divorced more than in 2017. So in the 1990, more people got divorced than in 2017. 25 to 34, yeah, it's like that's more people got divorced than in 2017 now. And then at the ages of 35 and 44, which is when they're more mature, they pretty much stay the same. Then something happens 45 to 54, and we have an increase of divorces. And then 55 to 64, we have another increase, a bigger jump from 5.1 to 12. And then over 65, what are people at 65 divorcing? It's like the rate has increased drastically. So when we see these numbers, we wonder, what happened between 45 and 54, 55 and 64, and even at 65? So what's happening at those ages? That's the question, right? Something is going on around here that we are not noticing. We are thinking people are more mature, they should be looking for stability. 55 to 64, they retire already. 65, definitely retired. So why are divorce rates increasing in here? For those aged 45 and older, divorce rates are higher in 2017. See, pretty much the same, and then it increases. So what happens after 45? 45 to 54, 55 to 60. What major changes happened between those years? Menopause. Menopause is a natural decline in reproductive hormones when a woman reaches her 40s or 50s. And this is not only women. Men suffer some changes as well, which they call andropause. Women and men, menopause can be a time of change for women and men, but male menopause is just an easy way to describe it. Male menopause is a condition that affects older men. It carries a set of symptoms that are linked to declining testosterone levels and aging. It also referred to as andropause. androgen decline in the aging male, late onset hypogonadism, and low testosterone. The menopause is a time in a woman's life when it recognizes its biological and social changes. It can have an impact upon mental well-being. Several studies have investigated the relationship between menopause and psychological symptoms, especially depression, and mixed results. In part, is due to a considerable overlap between depressive symptoms and those due to declining estrogen levels, causing challenges in assessment, which means they are hidden. It appears that vulnerable women are at a higher risk of succumbing to depression during menopause transition. And this is just a few of the studies that we see. Menopause and mental health. It is from the early 40s, during the perimenopausal years, that symptoms of premenstrual syndrome, also tend to worsen. In those with premenstrual dysphoric disorder, or MPDD, may find their condition increasingly difficult to manage. This would be a little surprise given the symptoms associated with premenopausal disorders are believed to be a result of an abnormal psychological response to normal hormonal changes. Around 50% of PMDD sufferers attempt to take their own lives. We cannot afford to be complacent. And this is information that is not out there. It's not public knowledge. People are, what do I say it? People are not aware of what's going on. The society has put menopause into a box. Oh, you are a menopausal woman. You just get hot flashes, you just get thinning hair, your skin becomes brittle, and you may lose your bones. That's not it. That's just not it. So there are common symptoms of menopause, and everybody knows what they are. You get cramps, anxiety, mood swings, hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness, irregular periods, loss of libido, hot flashes, again, high risk of certain conditions like osteoporosis, coronary artery disease, or urinary tract infections. It's everything that we've been told. This is what happens when you get to menopause. You just get to be an old lady. But no one in here is talking about the neurological disorders that can happen. We just know it as midlife crisis. That's all. That's what we know. We just go like, oh, she's going through a midlife crisis. What happened to him? He went through a midlife crisis. So menopause and mental health. WebMD mentions that as women, we are born with all our eggs. Therefore, and I wanted to highlight this, we are born complete. We are born with everything that we need. So the next time that you're thinking that you are incomplete, when you're born as a woman, you are born complete. You are born with all of your eggs. Your children were there. This is a big writing that I wanted to mention it to you because previous studies suggested that menopause transition played an important role in the clinical course of major depression and bipolar disorder. However, the role of symptomatic menopause transition in diagnostic conversion from major depression to bipolar disorder was still unknown. There's several studies that have shown that midlife women between 40 and 60 years old with major depressions were enrolled in a study, and they were divided. And bipolar disorder was one of the symptoms that have come out. But because bipolar disorder is so subtle, it was very difficult to identify it on regular people. One study suggests that late onset bipolar disorder may be associated with menopause. What does this mean? This means that if you develop bipolar disorder as an adult, it might be linked to menopause. Among women who have the disorder, almost one in five reported several emotional disturbances during the transition into menopause. And what is the age of transition? 45, 50, 55, 65. When did the majority of the divorces took place? 45, 55, up to 65. When we go to the doctor, as we start to enter into menopause, they give us the normal symptoms. This is what you're going to be experiencing. This is what's going to happen. Take your vitamins, take calcium, take this, take that. No one ever mentions, hey, you should do a psychiatric evaluation because you may develop a neurological disorder. You may develop bipolar. No one ever mentions that. The development of mental health conditions during menopause is universal knowledge that we as a society refuse to acknowledge. That's me. That's what I believe. I believe that the development of mental health conditions during menopause, it's universal knowledge that we as a society refuse to acknowledge. Why do you think that we say he's going through a mental crisis? He's going through a midlife crisis. So what happens when the husband leaves his wife for a 20-year-old? He's having a midlife crisis. What happens when he goes on and all of a sudden tries to be this young guy and buys a new car and goes to the gym and works out? And it's a mental condition. It's a mental crisis. It's not a midlife crisis. And if treated, that man, that woman would be able to keep their lives, would be able to maintain the life that they've worked for. Until now, the role of symptomatic menopause transition in diagnostic conversion from major depression to bipolar disorder was still unknown and is still unknown. Midlife women with a dual diagnosis of major depression and symptomatic menopausal transition have an increased risk of the diagnostic conversion to bipolar disorder compared to those with major depression alone. And how do we identify depression if it's not being treated or diagnosed as part of a menopause symptom? Previous studies have suggested that menopausal transition played an important role in clinical course of major depression and bipolar disorder. Where are the studies? The studies are not present anywhere. Further studies may be required to investigate the underlying mechanisms among menopausal transition and diagnostic conversion from major depression to bipolar disorder. And so why do you think we keep bringing this up? It's like, how many people know what bipolar disorder looks like? We just think a bipolar person is someone who is temperamental, someone who changes, tempers. That's what I thought. I thought for sure, certain people was bipolar because they would be like super happy one day and super angry the next day. That's the perception that we have of bipolar, but that's not it. So what does bipolar, what bipolar symptoms look like? Depression, oversleeping, despair, weight fluctuation, low self-esteem, suicidal mentality. What does mania look like? Because bipolar has two. Okay, it's you, it's two. Mania is you're oversleeping, again, which is the same as depression. Have despair, which is the same as depression. Have weight fluctuation, which is the same as depression. Have low self-esteem, which is the same as depression. And you have suicidal mentality, except that one is you don't want to do anything, and the other one, you actually do it. And that's a danger. That when you are in mania and you have the suicidal mentality, you could possibly do it. You could potentially do it. So depression is one of the key signs of depression from bipolar disorder. You get to feeling sad, hopeless for long periods of times. You withdraw from friends and family, and you simply become lonely. Like you don't hang out with your girlfriends, you don't hang out with your friends, you don't go to parties, and nobody like sees you or misses you or you know, so it goes undetected. You're losing interest in activities that you once enjoyed. And again, no one notices it. You're having a significant change in appetite. You either eat a lot or you don't eat enough. You're feeling severe fatigue and lack of energy. And they just tell you, hey, you're just getting old. You have problems with memory, concentration, and decision making. And again, the answer is you're just getting old. That's it. And thinking about attempting suicide or having preoccupation with death. You start to think, worrying about death. You start to think, you know, if I was dead, what would happen this, what would happen that? So those are thoughts that come to our head that we're not aware. What does mania look like? Mania is the other side of the spectrum. You're feeling overly happy for long periods of time. You're the life of the party. You know, you go to a party, and that's where you see, you know, a lot of this menopause women are the life of the party. They're dancing with the young guys. They're like doing all the things, right? They're having a decrease in need of sleep. They're like super energetic. They're talking really, really, really fast with racing thoughts. They feel extremely restless or impulsive. And that's when you go to go see this women that have, you know, surgery like all over, and then they destroy themselves because they are impulsive. And, you know, you just criticize this woman. We just criticize this woman. What is she thinking? You know, like, why is she having, you know, like a facelift, and she's having her boobs up, and she's like having all this. She looks like a porcelain doll, and then before you know it, it's destroyed her face. But it's part of the mania, unrecognized mania. It's becoming easily distracted and is having overconfidence in its abilities, in her abilities or his abilities. It's like all of a sudden, you know, it's like, I can do this, I can do that. Engaging in risky behaviors such as having impulsive sex, gambling with like savings, or going on big spending sprees. And that's where you see that a lot of problems happen. It's like, okay, you know, like she went shopping and she spent thousands of dollars, you know, and do you think that I don't think that anybody in the right mind will go over and spend all of the rent's money on stuff. But why does this person do it? She didn't do it because she was careless. She did it because she had a mental condition that is developing. And all of these things start subtle. And if untreated, they continue. Depression can get deeper. In mania, it can get higher, completely out of control. And that's why you see that older women, older men end up in a relationship with a 20-year-old, you know, because the libido is like super high and they're irrational and they're not thinking, and then they destroy their lives. And No one was there to tell them, hey, this could be a mental condition. And if you get treated, you don't have to end up like that. I have not talked to a single person that got involved with a younger person that does not repent, uh, that does not feel sorry for having done that. Do you think that a person that has been happily married for 25 years and more really wants to cheat on their husband, on their spouse, on their wife? No. Why did they do it? Because they are under a mania phase. They are under, but they spend all their life savings because they are under a mania phase. And it's only going to get worse. I assure you. And I have seen it. So what does depression sound like in people? You will appreciate me better when I'm dead. You hear that all the time. I wish you were dead. I wish I was dead. What will you do without me? Obsessive activities, obsessive cleaning, obsessive surgery, OCD, crying for no reason. Oh, it's your period again. It's my period again. Hot flushes, sleepless, irritability. That's how depression looked like. I don't want to do anything. And I was like, oh. How does depression feel for the person? Feeling of sadness, tearfulness, emptiness, hopelessness. It's like, the person is like, you want to go out? No. You want to wash your hair? No. Angry at first, irritability, frustration over small matters. You breathe too loud. Loss of interest or pleasure in most of all normal activities such as sex, hobbies, or sports. Sleep disturbances, including insomnia or sleeping too much. That's how depression will represent itself. What does mania sounds like? Because everybody can identify depression, right? You see someone and then you see like, hey, you're falling into depression, but it's not acknowledged. Like it's very subtle, so you don't acknowledge it. But mania is even less identified. If you see someone with mania, you will just think they're on top of the world, but they're not. So how does mania represent? Needing less sleep. People in mania don't need to sleep that much. They are more active, they're happy, they're happy, feeling unusually happy, at the same time irritable and energetic, making unrealistic plans or focusing intensely on a goal or a plan, being easily distracted and having racing thoughts, having unrealistic feelings of self-importance. All of a sudden, that's what you see, like all of a sudden this 40, 50-year-old comes to the party, like, like in very provocative dress, and you're like, that doesn't look but in that person's mind is like, they look great. It's awesome. And they have this misperception, they have this, like, I was the prettiest in there, blah, 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 blah. And then no one's going to tell this person anything. And no one tells, and if someone says something, they take it as criticism. They take it as, hey, you're too much. No one really sees what's going on behind all of this behavior. And what's going on behind this behavior is a neurological disorder. If you are thinking in your right mind, do you think that you want to show up at a party, in one of your kids' party, dressed like questionably and flirting with everybody at the party? When you are in your right mind, you're like, I would never do that. But as time changes and you start to develop depression in mania, when you are in one of your mania episodes, you will show up like that person that you, in your right mind, you would never have done. And what do people say? What do your friends say? So, oh, she's going to a midlife crisis. It's not a midlife crisis. It's a neurological disorder. It can be easily treated, identified and treated. But we're not aware that it shows up. So what other signs of mania are? You show interest, intense happiness, or silliness for long periods of times. You have a short temper, and it's like you can't take criticism. Like if someone tells you and comes like, hey, it's like you're excessively happy, they'll be like, what's wrong with being happy? You're irritable. You seem extremely irritable, and you talk fast for a lot of different things. Oh. And you've seen that. You've seen this behavior. You've seen this behavior. You have experienced the behavior. You are not a stranger to this behavior. And what do we call it? We call it midlife crisis. Oh, she's going through a phase. She became a cougar. That's not it. She has a mental condition. She has a mental health issue. She has a neurological disorder that can easily be identified if we get a psychological evaluation as we enter menopause and as we go through menopause to make sure that we don't fall under this mental conditions. Because what happens? What happens when you are hit with depression, when you are hit with mania? You become those persons, you become those people. And if you are not treated, it becomes worse. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And you have seen it. You have seen it in people. We just tend to ignore it. I'm sure that by now you have already identified a handful of people that have gone through a midlife crisis, that have experienced a change, that have left their husbands, that have left their wives for a younger one, for another one. You have already identified the crazy aunt. You have already identified the crazy neighbor. But how many people have helped? You just think they're beyond help, right? So we're going to go over 2 testimonials. This is Marie. Marie was married with 3 daughters. At about 45, she started to develop schizophrenia, accusing her husband of wanting to poison her. She stopped drinking bottled water because she believed that her husband and kids were trying to poison her by injecting poison into the bottled waters. If you are in your right mind right now, you think, what reasons would my husband have to poison me, right? Her condition went unrecognized and untreated. Eventually, she divorced her husband, ended the relationship with her children. I cannot imagine ending the relationship with my children. I love my children. And I am sure she loved her children. But the schizophrenia went so bad that she ended the relationship with them. And now she lives in a 1-bedroom in a house, constantly asking the landlord to change the door locks almost every other week. She's sure that someone is trying to get into her house. She has lost connections with most of the people she knew, and her condition continues to deteriorate. Marie needs to be diagnosed. Marie needs to get a psychological evaluation to be treated to get better. And even if she gets better, she may never get her life back. If her husband moved on, she's not going to get her husband back. If her children were severely damaged, to rebuild that relationship is going to take a long time. Do you think Marie wanted to end the relationship in her life like this? But she was not aware that during menopause, she may develop neurological disorders. She didn't know that during menopause, she needed to have a psychological evaluation to make sure that she didn't go through this. When she started to have those thoughts of schizophrenia, when she started to have those thoughts of victimization, that should have been an indication. I need to get a psychological evaluation, or her husband, when she started to accuse her husband, hey, you want to kill me. And how many times do you hear that? Do you want to kill me over heart attack? Do you want to kill me? You hear that all the time. So that should be our number one warning. Hey, 45, 35, depending on when menopause is showing up, you should go ahead and get a psychological evaluation and get treated if you have any conditions. So you don't end up like Marie. If Marie would have gotten her psychological evaluation when she started to accuse her husband of wanting to poison her, she would still be in her house. She will still be with her daughters. She will still be a mother, a ground. I'm sure that that's what she wanted. She didn't want to live in a one-bedroom apartment. And all the people that she knew, she doesn't know anymore. So those people don't know where she ended at. They just remember, oh, I remember so-and-so, yeah, they used to come. What happened to, oh, they got divorced. Where is she? I don't know. I haven't heard from her. The husband, oh yeah, the husband remarried again. He's married, You hear those kind of stories. But this is the whole story. This is what happened. And it could have been avoided. But the problem is that we are not aware. We are not aware that we can develop neurological disorders during menopause. And no one is talking about this yet. So here's another story. This is Sam. Sam was a wife and a mother of 3. Her and her husband were financially stable, vacation around the world with her family, creating happy memories. At age 47, she accused her husband of rape and sent him to jail. Sold her paid-off house and ran away with a 20-year-old guy, got pregnant at 50, and delivered a health-compromised child. Her husband is in jail, doesn't know where her other 3 children are. Currently, she is divorced, living in her car with a physically challenged 3-year-old who she can't provide quality care. She lost communication with all her children and immediate family. She can't stay anywhere. She's undiagnosed and getting worse. And stories like this are the stories that break my heart. Because if Sam would have known that at age 45, 47, there was a possibility that she could get a mental health condition, she would have gotten the help that she needed. When she accused her husband of rape, if she would have gotten a psychological evaluation, and would have gotten to therapy, they would have been able to work it out. They had been married for, I don't know, over like 30 years. But she did not know that there was such thing as a neurological disorder that could happen during menopause. And all the men and women in the past that we know about have gone through this. And they could, if someone would have told them, hey, you might get a neurological disorder, it would be a good idea as part of your natural checkup as menopause. As you enter menopause, they send you to do a mammogram. As you enter menopause, they do a bone density check. As you enter menopause, they tell you, hey, you're going to have hot flushes, start drinking your vitamins. So why not tell you, hey, as you enter menopause, you should get a psychological evaluation and make sure that you're not falling into any of this. And this is what you should be looking out for. This is what you should be watching for so that you don't get a mental condition that destroys your life. We have been working really hard to be where we're at. Gone to school, raised our children, worked, bought a house, bought cars. People that have destroyed their careers, made irrational decisions, ruined their reputations. And you wonder why, right? Because we are not aware. We are not aware, and there's no awareness that neurological conditions are part of menopause. So the unknown is scary. Our loved ones are the ones that can identify that something is wrong. We must be receptive and we must seek help. But when someone comes to you and they tell you, hey, you should get a psych evaluation, go like, I'm not crazy. All right, because we don't know that as menopause, we might get those neurological conditions developed. And so then if we are aware that those exist and can possibly exist when our loved ones are telling us something's wrong, we are going to be more receptive because we know. And when we study the lives of the people that have already suffered and have already gone over this mental condition, untreated mental conditions, and where they're at right now, we are thankful that we can discover it now, and that we can be treated now, that we can be tested now, and that we are not going to lose everything that we've worked for so hard. So one of the first things that we need to do is seek help. Medical doctors will not identify any mental disorder yet. Again, I keep saying the word yet, because it is my mission, it's our mission to go ahead and to bring awareness to the medical society, to the psychological society of this reality. Only a psychiatrist can diagnose and medicate. Individuals and family therapy can help, providing support in family members, provide coping mechanisms, and most importantly, acceptance. We need to accept this is where we're at, and we need to identify those thoughts, and we need to identify those behaviors to be able to correct them. I know this has been a lot of information, and this is only the beginning. So our goal is to bring awareness of this condition over to you, and that you seek help, that you seek a psychiatric evaluation, therapy. There are many other things that can help you. There are oils that you can use, meditations, breathing exercises, realization, journaling, whatever methods you use to keep yourself safe. The first thing is to get a psychiatric evaluation and make sure that you identify and that you know the symptoms. And you listen to your family, and you listen to your loved ones. And if you have a loved one that is going through something like that, share this information with them so that they know that neurological disorders are a reality, especially during menopause. Thank you so much for attending. If you want to reach out to us, if you want us to speak at one of your churches or one of your organizations in your company, feel free to contact us for a live presentation. Check out my website, email me, and book your 30-minute call with us. And we'll be happy to hear. Also, if you want to leave your testimony, or if you want to leave the testimony of someone that you know, please feel free to email it to us. I'll be very grateful, honored, and respectful when sharing it. And that testimony might help someone. The thing that I hear all the time is, I wish someone had told me. I wish I knew so I wouldn't have lost so much. If you know of someone that already lost, someone that it's in the process of losing, or someone that is on top of the world, if you are on top of the world, then get tested. Don't wait. Don't wait. I'm telling you right now. Don't wait.